The cafe was closing when Lyra Mendez heard it, a faint, metallic whimper beneath the hum of Illustra Station's power conduits. At first she thought it was just the coolant pipes, another glitch in the underdeck. But then it came again, soft, broken, alive. She set down her rag and followed the sound out the service door. The corridor beyond was dim, streaked with blue light from the reactor vanes that pulsed like a living heart through the station. The air smelled of ozone and machine oil. She moved quietly, her work shoes whispering over metal plating. A crate had fallen near the refuse chute, its contents scattered, shards of glass, spilled nutrient paste, a tangle of circuitry. In the middle of it lay a small shape curled tight, trembling. It was no rat or stray bot. It was alive. Lyra knelt. A hatchling, silver-scaled, no bigger than a cat, its wings wrapped clumsily around its body. One wing gleamed with soft metal plating, the other hung limp, bent at an angle that made her chest tighten. Its skin shimmered faintly, reacting to her presence. "Hey, easy there," she murmured. The creature flinched, hissing weakly. Then, in her mind, she felt a whisper, not a voice, exactly, but a sensation of pain and fear. Cold. Lost. Mother gone. Lyra froze. Telepathic resonance, common among the draconic species. Which meant this wasn't just some pet or experiment. It was sentient. And very young. "Stars above," she whispered. "You're one of them." The hatchling whimpered again. A soft mechanical click followed, its metal wing trying to move, sparking once, then falling still. She hesitated. Humans weren't supposed to touch Draconic's offspring. Even in the human sector, the law was strict. Contamination or interference with royal biolines was punishable by exile or worse. But the creature's pulse was fading. Its scales were cold. Lyra reached out. "You're going to be okay," she said softly, and gathered it into her arms. The scales were smooth, almost silky, but beneath them she could feel its trembling heart. It pressed its snout weakly against her chest. A soft, wordless thought drifted through her mind. "Warm." "Yeah," she whispered, smiling faintly. "Warm." She brought it back into the cafe, locking the door behind her. The place was quiet now, the low hum of the lights, the scent of synthetic cinnamon from the day's customers still hanging in the air. She laid the hatchling on a folded towel behind the counter. Its breathing was shallow. "All right, little one. Let's see what we can do." Lyra had once studied basic xenobiology before dropping out. Credits ran out, and she'd taken this job to pay off her debts. She still remembered enough to make a saline mix, sterilize a wound, adjust a prosthetic joint. She cleaned the metal wing, wincing at the fractured servo near the base. The design was far beyond human tech, organic alloy fused directly to muscle. But she managed to secure it with an adhesive patch and soft binding. The hatchling shuddered, then slowly relaxed. Its eyes fluttered open, pale gold, like molten sunrise. Lyra smiled. "There you go. Name?" The whisper was faint, uncertain. She blinked. "You want a name?" A small nod, barely perceptible. "Aaron," she said after a moment. "Means hope, where I'm from." "Air-N." The hatchling tested the sound, curling its tail. "Close enough." For the next hour she stayed by its side, feeding it warmed nutrient gel from a dropper. It accepted the food, its breathing steadying. The storm of panic that had filled her chest earlier began to ease. Then the door chime rang. Lyra froze. The cafe had been locked. The door opened anyway, sliding soundlessly aside. A tall figure stepped through, a man cloaked in black, hood drawn low. His presence filled the room before he spoke. "I seek what was lost," he said, voice deep, resonant, and strangely melodic. Lyra swallowed. "We're closed." The figure stepped closer. The lights flickered against polished armor beneath his cloak. His gaze swept the room and fixed on the counter. On the small silver shape behind her. She moved instinctively, shielding the hatchling with her body. "This area's restricted. You can't just..." His eyes glowed faintly as he raised his head. Not human eyes, slit pupils, burning ember. The faint trace of scales at his temple caught the light. Every story she'd ever heard clicked together in her mind. Emperor Kael'Thorin, she breathed. The Dragon Emperor. Supreme ruler of the Draconix dominion. He studied her in silence, unreadable. You know who I am. Everyone does. Then you understand the gravity of touching what belongs to me. Lyra's pulse thundered. It was dying. Then it should have died. His words landed like a physical blow. The hatchling whimpered softly behind her, its mind brushing hers again, fear, sorrow, recognition. Father. Kael'Thorin's jaw tightened. For the first time, something flickered behind his gaze. Lyra stepped closer, anger rising to meet her fear. You'd let your own child die in a gutter? He glared. You presume much, human. I presume kindness, she shot back. Maybe that's foreign to you. Silence hung thick between them. The air hummed with static from the station grid. Somewhere deep below, the engines thrummed like a heartbeat. Kael'Thorin's gaze drifted to the hatchling again. It was peering around Lyra's leg, eyes brightening at the sight of him. He knelt slowly, claws clicking against the metal floor. Come, he said softly. The hatchling didn't move. Lyra could feel its small mind trembling. Safe, stay warm, light. She placed a hand on its back. It's scared, she said quietly. Let me help. You dare instruct me in care of my own blood? Seems like someone should. His eyes narrowed, but the fury was gone. In its place was something heavier, confusion, shame, perhaps even regret. You speak boldly for one so fragile, he said. Lyra smiled faintly. Fragile things survive when they learn to care for one another. For a long moment neither moved. Only the low hum of the lights and the hatchling's slow breathing filled the air. Then Kael'Thorin rose to his full height, cloak whispering against the floor. The laws of my kind are not yours to question. This creature is flawed. It cannot fly, and thus cannot rule. That's not a flaw, Lyra said. That's life. He turned toward the door. You will surrender it to me. Now. The hatchling whimpered again, pressing into her leg. Lyra shook her head. Not until it's healed. He paused, hand on the control panel. The station lights caught the edge of his profile, regal, severe, utterly alone. Why? He asked without turning. Because no one else would. The words hung between them like a spark suspended in air. Kael'Thorin looked back, eyes unreadable. For the first time, the endless authority in his voice faltered. You risk your life, he said softly. Lyra met his gaze. So does everyone worth saving. He said nothing more. The door slid open behind him, lights spilling from the corridor. He stood there for a heartbeat longer, the hum of his armor faint beneath the silence, then turned and left without another word. When the door closed, the hatchling climbed into her arms, trembling less now. She could still feel the Emperor's presence lingering in the air, sharp, heavy, uncertain. Lyra stroked the small creature's neck. Looks like your dad's got some things to learn. Father, sad, came the faint thought. Yeah, she murmured. Maybe he is. Lyra didn't sleep that night. She sat behind the counter, half listening to the hum of the ceiling fans and the slow, steady breathing of the hatchling resting in a makeshift nest of towels. Its tiny chest rose and fell, metal wing glinting under the dim light. She kept expecting the Emperor's guards to crash through the door. None came. By dawn's cycle, she brewed herself a cup of synth coffee and stared at the rising glow beyond the viewport. Illustra Station floated against the cold curve of a gas giant, its storms churning amber and red. She'd grown up here, born among gravity plating and recycled air, but that morning it all felt smaller. A soft knock startled her. The door slid open without her permission again. Kael'Thorin entered, no longer cloaked. Without his armor, he seemed even larger, each movement precise, deliberate. His scales caught the light in shades of obsidian and steel. 2 guards waited outside, silent. Lyra stiffened. You've got nerve walking back in here after last night. His gaze fell to the hatchling. Aaron, he said quietly. The name surprised him. You named it. She needed one, Lyra replied. He looked at her, eyes sharp but unreadable. She? Instinct, she said, shrugging. She feels like a she. He didn't correct her. Kael'Thorin moved closer. The hatchling chirped and tried to stand, wobbling on unsteady legs before collapsing again. The metal wing twitched and sparked. Lyra reached down to steady it. Don't strain yourself, sweetheart. Do not call her that, the Emperor said, though his voice lacked conviction. Then you do it, Lyra shot back. His mouth tightened. She should have been perfect. She carries my blood. Perfection's overrated. Among my kind, it defines worth. Lyra met his gaze. And among mine, it defines loneliness. For a moment neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't hostile anymore, only heavy. Kael'Thorin's eyes softened slightly as he studied the human woman who dared argue with him. What do you gain from this defiance? He asked. Sleep at night, Lyra said. He looked away. Humans and their sentimentality. You trade logic for emotion and call it morality. Funny thing, she said. It's what kept us alive when everyone else thought we'd burn out. He said nothing, but she saw the smallest hint of amusement flicker in his eyes before fading. Lyra focused back on the hatchling. The fracture on the metal wing had worsened. She adjusted the brace she'd improvised the night before. Kael'Thorin crouched beside her, watching every motion with silent scrutiny. This fusion point, she said, pointing. It's organic alloy mixed with living tissue. The regenerative cells are fighting the metal plating. You're forcing two systems to coexist that reject each other. His brow furrowed. You understand our engineering? A little. Enough to know whoever did this wasn't thinking about comfort. Just performance. Kael'Thorin studied her hands as she worked. Humans always fix what is broken, even when they should not. Or maybe we fix what we can because no one else will. She countered. He inclined his head slightly. Tell me, Lyra Mendez, what do you see when you look at her? She glanced up. A child who deserves a chance. I see a future emperor who will never fly. Lyra's tone cooled. Maybe she'll learn to walk first. The Emperor said nothing. He only stared at his daughter, something old and painful shadowing his expression. After a while, he spoke again, quieter. Her mother died giving her life. The council called it a sign, a curse for breeding weakness. Lyra's voice softened. And you believed them? He didn't answer. The silence was enough. Aaron whimpered softly and reached out with her mind. Hunger. Lyra smiled faintly. She's learning new words. Kael'Thorin blinked. So soon? She's smart. Probably gets that from you. He gave a low huff, something like a restrained laugh. Perhaps from her mother. Lyra warmed nutrient gel, feeding Aaron gently. Kael'Thorin watched every motion, the alien ruler now reduced to a silent observer of something far more intimate than diplomacy. When Aaron finished, Lyra wiped her chin with the corner of a towel. The hatchling yawned and nestled against her leg. Kael'Thorin rose slowly, pacing near the viewport. You are unafraid of me. Should I be? Most are. Maybe that's your problem, she said. You mistake fear for respect. He turned sharply. And you mistake compassion for strength. Lyra leaned back against the counter, unshaken. Maybe they're the same thing. The Emperor's eyes narrowed, but there was no anger behind it now, only curiosity. You risk death by defying me, he said. I've been risking something every day since I got here. You just noticed. His gaze lingered on her a moment longer, then shifted to the hatchling again. She trusts you. She trusts warmth, Lyra said. You could too if you tried. Before he could answer, the outer calm alarm flared, a shrill metallic tone. Kael'Thorin turned to the door. His guards stood outside, tense, their helmets reflecting red emergency light. One bowed quickly. My liege, the High Council requests your presence. The hatchling's energy signature was traced. They demand the abomination be purged. Lyra froze. purged? Cale Thorin's jaw clenched. They have invoked the law of purity. That's murder, she said sharply. It is tradition, he replied, though his voice lacked conviction. She stepped closer. You're the Emperor. You could stop it. The law binds even me. No, Lyra said. You let it. His eyes met hers, steel against fire. You presume to lecture an immortal ruler on morality? If it keeps that child alive, yes. The silence between them cracked like glass. Then Cale Thorin turned to his guards. Leave us. The soldiers hesitated, then obeyed. The door sealed behind them, locking with a hiss. He faced her again, his expression unreadable. Do you know what you ask of me, human? To defy my own counsel is to risk civil war. Lyra didn't back down. And to obey them is to kill your daughter. Her words hit harder than any weapon. The Emperor looked away, his throat working. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the low hum of Illustra's power grid filled the silence. Finally, he said, Among my kind, imperfection brings shame. Among mine, she said softly, it brings empathy. He turned toward her. You think kindness can rewrite nature? I think it's the only thing that ever has. Something in his face broke then, an invisible fracture spreading beneath the surface of centuries-old certainty. He knelt beside the hatchling again, one clawed finger brushing her metallic wing. She should never have survived. Yet she did, Lyra said. He looked up at her. If I let them destroy her, I lose what remains of my honor. And if you save her, Lyra said, you'll find something better. The Emperor straightened slowly. The light from the viewport caught the edge of his scales, turning them silver blue. You are reckless, he said. Maybe, she replied. But so was every first step anyone ever took. Cale Thorin studied her for a long moment, then said quietly, When they come for her, I cannot protect you. Lyra's voice didn't waver. I don't need protection. I just need time. He gave a faint nod, almost a bow, and turned toward the door. Before leaving, he looked back once more at the hatchling, then at Lyra. She called you Warm Light, he said softly. She has not named anyone before. The alarms began at dawn. Illustra Station's upper decks flared crimson as evacuation sirens echoed through the metal corridors. Lyra held Erin close, shielding her from the trembling ceiling lights that flickered with each distant explosion. Somewhere above, the Draconix fleet was closing in, Cale Thorin's own ships, obeying orders that would burn his legacy to ash. The cafe was nearly dark now. The smell of scorched wiring lingered where a blast had ruptured the conduit. Lyra's calm crackled, a voice shouting through static. Human sector lockdown. All non-combatants evacuate immediately. She ignored it. Her eyes stayed on the hatchling, who clung to her arm, eyes wide and bright. Scared, the child's thought trembled inside her mind. I know, baby, Lyra whispered. Hold on. He'll come. The door burst open a moment later. Cale Thorin strode through smoke and red light, no cloak this time, only the full armor of the Dragon Emperor, black as a dying star. His eyes glowed faint gold beneath the helmet's shadow. Lyra, he said. We have little time. They're coming for her, aren't they? Yes. The Council declared both of you traitors. Both? I claimed you were under my protection, he said, voice low. They took that as rebellion. Lyra's pulse spiked. Then what's the plan? Cale Thorin's gaze shifted to Erin. We run. He opened his palm, a small sphere pulsed there, swirling with dark light. A phase core. It can carry us off station before the main fleet locks its weapons. Lyra grabbed her satchel. Then what are we waiting for? They moved fast through the maintenance corridors. The lights above flickered as if the station itself were holding its breath. Every door they passed was sealed, every passage lined with terrified workers hiding from the chaos outside. Erin whimpered softly. Cale Thorin slowed, looking back. She is in pain. The metal wing's failing again, Lyra said, breathless. I can fix it if we get 5 minutes. He hesitated, then pointed toward a service hatch. There. They ducked inside a narrow chamber humming with coolant lines. Lyra set Aaron on a crate, opening her tools with shaking hands. Calethorn watched, silent but tense, claws flexing with each sound of combat echoing in the distance. "Why are they doing this?" she asked without looking up. "Because I taught them to," he said quietly. She glanced up. "You mean all this, purity, strength, perfection?" "Yes. My empire was built on it. I made them believe mercy was weakness." Lyra worked quickly, sparks flicking from the hatchling's wing. "Then prove them wrong." "I intend to." The metal joint hissed, then locked into place. The wing flexed once, smooth this time, the servos responding perfectly. Aaron chirped in delight. "See?" Lyra smiled faintly. "She's stronger than any of us." Calethorn's voice softened. "She is her mother's child." Lyra glanced at him. "You loved her?" "Yes," he said simply. "And when she died, I forgot what that meant." The doors shook violently. Voices shouted from the other side, muffled but unmistakable. "Found them!" Calethorn turned, energy crackling around his armor. "Stay behind me." The hatch blew open in a flash of light. Draconic soldiers stormed in, their armor gleaming with crimson insignia. The lead officer leveled his weapon. "My liege," he said coldly, "by order of the High Council, you are relieved of command. The defective and the human must be purged." Calethorn stepped forward. "Lower your weapon. Your will is no longer law." The Emperor's voice dropped into a tone that silenced even the alarms. "It is until I draw my last breath." The soldiers hesitated. Power radiated from him, ancient and terrible. For a moment, no one moved. Then Lyra spoke. "You said it yourself, prove them wrong." Calethorn's gaze hardened. "So be it." He raised his hand. Light burst outward, pure, blinding gold. The blast struck the ceiling, collapsing steel beams and scattering the soldiers backward. The shockwave howled through the chamber, leaving silence in its wake. When the dust settled, Calethorn stood unmoving, armor cracked and smoking. The soldiers lay unconscious, their weapons melted to slag. Lyra rushed to him. "You'll kill yourself doing that." He smiled faintly. "Not before I finish this." He extended his claw toward the phase core again. "We must leave." They reached the hangar bay just as the station's defense grid ignited. Explosions rippled across the viewports, turning the void into a field of fire. Dozens of ships surrounded Illustra, their engines burning bright. Calethorn keyed the phase core. Space folded inward, a vortex of light consuming the air. "Hold on to me," he said. Lyra gripped Aaron tight and stepped beside him. The world blurred, sound vanished, replaced by weightless silence, and then they were gone. When vision returned, they stood on a cliff overlooking a vast sea of clouds. The sky burned violet, the sun sinking low behind jagged spires of crystal mountains. Lyra gasped. "Where are we?" "My home," he said. "Draconix Prime." Aaron chirped, wings fluttering. The planet's air shimmered faintly around her scales, resonating with the same bioluminescence as her father's. Calethorn stared across the horizon. "They will come here soon. I must face them." Lyra turned to him. "You don't have to do this alone." He looked at her, then at Aaron. "You have already done what no one else could." "And what's that?" "Reminded me what it means to rule." From the sky, streaks of light approached, council ships descending in perfect formation. Calethorn straightened, his wings unfolding with a thunderous crack. Lyra stepped back, shielding Aaron behind a rock outcrop. The Emperor rose into the air, hovering before the descending fleet. His voice carried across the sky. "Hear me, children of Draconix! You claim strength, yet you fear what you do not understand. You call imperfection weakness, yet it is the fire that forges us anew." The fleet paused. The council's voice boomed through external comms. "You speak heresy. Surrender, or be purged with the human." Calethorn's answer shook the clouds. "Then strike me down, and learn what weakness truly is." The sky erupted. Bolts of plasma streaked downward, meeting a surge of light that erupted from his wings. The collision split the air in a roar of sound and flame. Lyra held Aaron close, the shockwave rippling through the ground. When the light faded, the fleet's weapons hung silent. The ships floated motionless, systems fried by the energy pulse that rolled out from the Emperor's wings. Kael'Thorin descended slowly, smoke rising from his armor. He landed near Lyra, knees trembling, but still standing. "It's done," he said quietly. Lyra looked up at the silent sky. "They'll follow you now. They'll question first," he replied. "But questions lead to change." He turned toward her and the hatchling. Aaron reached out, brushing her father's hand with her claw. "Father, safe." Kael'Thorin exhaled sharply, his composure fracturing for the first time. "Yes," he said, voice breaking. "Safe." Lyra smiled through tears. "Guess we just rewrote a few laws. Perhaps it is time for new ones," he said. "Ones written not in blood, but in mercy." He looked at her then, really looked. "Stay here. Build what they fear to imagine." Lyra frowned. "And you?" "I must face what remains of my council. They will need a ruler who remembers what he's fighting for." She stepped closer. "You're not alone anymore." He nodded once, solemn. "Nor are you."